Hello, Fargo. Welcome to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I have a great show, what I think is going to be a great show. As you guys know, my opinion matters and does not matter. It just depends on who you are. So I have to tell you guys, when I do the week in review, it was interesting because I got a number of phone calls, texts, emails, probably the most action that I've seen since I've been on the air in regards to last week's show. And I found it interesting because some of the people that are my friends told me, you went too far with your assessment of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. You can't come full frontal at the people that you disagree with, because if they decide they don't like what you have to say, they can take you off the air or you're going to turn people off. Well, I have to be upfront with you. I don't care. I don't care because I believe in try to tell the truth always, okay? I didn't always used to be that guy, but that's what I believe now, okay? And I've said it many times on this show. This show is about dialogue. When I come on here and I talk about the fact that there are a lot of things that I detest about Trump or I detest about MAGA hats, the point is I'm accepting of their opinion because they're going to do what they're going to do. I'm not going to change anybody's mind here, but I've said it time and time again, it's about the dialogue. Okay? When we stop talking and communicating with each other, that's where we're really in trouble. So, we don't have to agree. We don't have to like each other, but we have to respect each other. And I would hope that people would look at the show that I did last week and say, you know what? I can take some things from it and I can move forward and all that's fantastic. But to think that when I espouse my opinion or my views, that automatically I wouldn't be able to be on the radio is utterly ridiculous, but that's the times that we live in. And so for me as a radio show host, I have to decide, am I going to say things the way I see them, or am I going to be afraid of not being able to do what I want to do or possibly lose this radio show? Now, one of my friends, he said, you're doing some great things because you promote positivity and you're helping people in this community whether you know it or not. So that's where you have to temper what you speak so that you continue to have the platform. Well, personally, I feel like this. There's help, okay? But every once in a while, you have to stand on some sort of principle. Okay, James says we have a caller on the topic. Go ahead, caller. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, who am I speaking to?
Bill.
Hey, Bill, how are you today?
Hey, I just wanted to make a general comment. I've listened to your show off and on, and not trying to pick a fight, but just in general, I've found it somewhat ironic that usually it feels like it's not positivity that's coming out on this show. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, tune in because it's about to be real positive with the F5 guys coming on. But there are times when we need to have the dialogue, okay? Life isn't always all positive, Bill, and I agree with you. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with my wife as well as some people about the fact that I started this show with the idea of maintaining positivity and moving the needle forward in the FM community. But at what point do I have to put that aside and actually talk about things that people go through? Right now, there's a lot of angst in the United States. There are a lot of people that don't feel good about the United States, okay? And my goal is to get people talking, okay? Because when we talk, we have meaningful discussion and things change. So with that, I've had enough of all the conversation. I just want to put it out there. This is about dialogue. And number one, this is about American people taking back the government. And I just wrote it on a post. We have not owned the government since the Industrial Revolution. Look it up. But what's more than that is we control this thing. But we have to get together and pay attention to what's happening, whether it's on the state, federal, or local level, all of it. We have to pay attention. So while we're over here being Dems or Repubs, right or left, they're doing exactly what they want to do. Okay, and at the point that they cut Social Security and start taxing my retirement heavily, or your retirement heavily, it'll be too late. Those are the things that we have to pay attention to. With that, we're going to open the show. I want to welcome Scott and Adam to the F5 project. They're from the F5 project. So sorry about that, but the housekeeping has to be done because I thought it was interesting because we live in America. And I should have an opinion without fear of being taken off the radio or the fact that some people think that maybe I shouldn't be here. I mean, what is going on? So anyway, I had to get that out of the way and let people voice their opinion, and that's fine. But I wanted to have you guys on because I've known about you for a long time. Okay, some of my friends have been involved in your program. And when I talk about moving the needle forward, these two gentlemen are what I'm talking about. Okay? People that not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk. All right? Right now, we have overcrowding in North Dakota prisons. Okay? We have people that get out of prison that have no means to do what they need to do to be reintegrated into society. And it bothers me because it used to be when you do your time, when you pay your debt to society, you should be able to walk out and live like any other American. Because let's face it, we all make mistakes. But here's the question. What are we doing as a society about it? Not much, right? Because if you got a felony on your record, I'll let you guys cover the statistics on what you can't do. But now, a light at the end of the tunnel are two of the gentlemen that sit before me because you know what? They saw a need in their community, they got involved, and they created a system that I think is fabulous. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
fantastic.
John. Appreciate it.
So let's start with a concept because let's face it, I own 3 businesses, and it's easy to get started, hard to implement, and even harder to maintain. So where did the idea come from for F5?
Well, it came from lived experience. So I'm 5-time convicted felon and spent a lot of time in jail, treatment centers, homeless shelters. And a lot of times when I was leaving the jail, I had nowhere to go. And so fast forward, I eventually got sober in 2013. I got a job at High Point Networks. Tom McDougall gave me a job. Knowing my record, knowing that I didn't have good job history, but was willing to give me a second chance. 4 years later, I had became pretty successful and had an opportunity to step away from that success and start F5 Project because I was tired of hearing of my friends dying or going to prison for a really long time and just going through that vicious cycle. And so I went back to where I came from to help the guys that were just like me.
Okay.
And Scott joined in 2018, right? And his stories, it's not as colorful.
Flashy.
It's not as flashy, but it is, whatever. He was in law enforcement for 20 years. And so it was kind of a hybrid model of former law enforcement officer and former felon coming together to try and create something great.
Jeez. So talk about dialogue, right? You talk about opposite ends of the spectrum, but here you've come together to create something that I think is vital to the community. So let's talk about some of the tenets of F5 from getting jobs to treatment to mentoring.
Yeah, so like Adam said, when I came on board with them, it started out like, you want me to come to work for you?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably what a lot of your listeners are saying, that's not going to work.
Right.
And we kind of had that same, but we kind of brought it together. And I think for me, what it proves is when we have a common goal and we decide that we're going to set aside all our thoughts, judgments, all those things that we think of people or what they do, that we can do some amazing things together. And I think that's a community thing. And that's what I think F5 is a big part of, is how do we bring our community together? Because, one of the statistics I always bring out to, like when I'm talking to HR, to employers, that kind of thing, is 95% of the people that go to our prisons are coming back to our communities.
Right.
Are we going to continue burying our heads in the sand and not providing something, some way to give those services or have them be a part of our communities?
Right.
So that's one of the big things for F5 is we have programs that are set up through the state, we're contracted, where we provide what I call community support. So what we do is we walk beside people. My goal is not to tell somebody, one of the things we talk about is I'm not going to should on people. Right. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. They've heard that all their lives. Right. My goal is to be person-centered. Our goal at F5 is to be person-centered. What do you want? What are your goals? And how can I help you achieve those? I'm not going to do it for you, but how do I help you achieve that? And the 4 areas that we work really, really closely in. Yep.
Before we continue we're going to come back with the 4 areas. Big Game James says we're up against the break. If you want to call in, the phone number 701-293-9000. We'll see you on the other end of the break. We're going to continue to talk with the gentleman from F5 about reintegrating people into society that have been to prison. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. We'll see you on the other end of the break. Hello, Fargo. Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I'm here with, is it Scott College? Yep. Oh, hello. Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I'm just going to call you Adam and Scott because I can remember that. And we have the lovely Rachel over there taking pictures. Although I didn't notice her take a picture of me, which, is kind of disturbing because I'm kind of needy that way. But anyway, we're talking about the positivity that is F5. And one of the big things that people need to understand is the difficulty in reintegration into the Fargo-Moorhead community. So if I were coming into the program, what would be the steps? How do we get in contact? How do I get in contact with you? Is it a parole situation? Does the state send people to you? how do you determine who's in the program, and how do they get there?
Yeah, there's a variety of ways. We pride ourselves on, we've been going into the jails and prisons to meet with people for the last 8 years. So chances are, if you go to a prison and you ask them if they know who F5 Project is, they know who we are. And we also have a podcast that goes into the prison. We help them launch a podcast. We're like trying to find ways to get connected, to people that are in prison before they're released so that we can build relationships with them. We took it kind of from the for-profit, mindset, right? You want customers, go out and find them, right? And
Yes.
so, and I had been in nonprofits as a participant in a variety of them, and I always felt like I was kind of tokened, right? Like, when you want me, you need me, right? Like if you want me to go speak, I'll go speak, and then you kind of forget about me. And I'm not saying all nonprofits are that way. That was just my experience. And so my lived experience drove me to like get into the prison so that they knew what we offered, that we have housing, we help them find jobs, we help them get into recovery, right?
And don't you find that when you're able to talk to them and look them in the eye, like I've done a lot of mentoring, and I've always said that people, when you come in to help, there's this trepidation by the people that you're helping that you're a do-gooder. In other words, you don't have their best interest at heart. And when you go into the prisons, I bet when they look in your eyes and you talk to them, they know and they understand.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I don't know about Scott, but
well, he's got the cop look about him, so it might be a little more difficult.
Hey,
but also it's by association.
Yep.
So you're street cred.
I got a lot of it.
Your reputation goes up because you're attached to him. And it's interesting because with your piece having been in law enforcement, that's kind of a hurdle for these guys.
Yeah.
I bet that they do. On the back end, they're thinking, well, wait, whoa. How do we know?
Well, it's
right?
the opposite too, because Scott's like, I call him the law enforcement whisperer, right?
Okay.
Every we could go to any police station or any jail or whatever, and there's a deputy, there's always a chief, there's someone knows Scott. They knew him from his 20 years in law enforcement. And because of my association to him, I've been able to get into doors with law enforcement, especially when I've had a very, toxic relationship with law enforcement from my past, right? I at one point in the county jail was put in the 5-point restraint chair, with the spit guard and the helmet on and stuff like that because I was violent. And even coming from that, Scott was able to help me repair a lot of those relationships.
How do you not become jaded?
I think for me, it's lived experience because I also am in recovery and I'm 3 months less than Adam, of course, 2013. He makes sure everybody knows that. But I think it's a lived experience and the idea that who am I to judge anybody else? And I think and I've been in those situations, even as somebody in law enforcement, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen people destroy their lives over addiction and mental health. But I did the same thing. I just didn't go to prison.
Right.
So I think you mentioned earlier I left the party at the right time,
Yeah.
but to go back to, not always, but to go back to the context of, overcoming that hurdle of, this guy is a cop, used to be a cop, and I always start out when I'm speaking in the prisoners' jails. I said, I bet you guys think I look like a cop. They're like, and I said I was. And then they're, oh, I told you, they know it. But part of that is I told them because I had one guy that came with a situation and I just told him, I said, you're doing to me exactly what you say the system's doing to you. You're judging me before you get an opportunity to hear me. So after that, after he heard my story, it was pretty cool. So I think it's the idea that we can continue to work together and try to figure this thing out.
So along those lines of figuring it out, it's been well received in the community. I look and I have a few friends that donate to F5. And so I follow with interest because, like I said, we have a mutual friend that works at Leonard Wells, works with you guys. And so watching his growth, watching the growth of the program, I don't want to say it's a subculture of society, but typically when it comes to crime and criminals, it's out of sight, out of mind, right? And we like it that way. It's kind of like our homeless. We like it that way.
Yep.
Okay, we don't want anything, to disturb our peace and tranquility in the great city of Fargo. But I think the way that you guys have gone about it, first, has allowed people to see our prison population as human again. Okay, not just criminals, but human again. And there's dialogue about it. And I'm jumping ahead, but the fact that you're going to expand, that means acceptance. Because first of all, you're a nonprofit, so that means you have to get out there and raise money, right?
Right.
And so if you're not worthwhile, your nonprofit lasts about 0.2 seconds. And the fact that not only have you lasted, you're now expanding. So there's the need there. Along the lines of need, how do people come to support the F5 project?
Yeah, the best way, we have a golf tournament that's coming up. You said you're a golfer.
August 16th.
No,
September 16th.
September 16th. Yeah.
I was close.
You were close.
I was close.
You can have a bunch of people show up in August.
It'd be a good time.
It would be fun.
Yeah, so sponsorships that way. We also do monthly donations. We have large donors. We have medium, small. Like we on Giving Hearts Day, which is on February 13th, I believe this year, right? We average about 400 donors in one day, right? And it's my opinion that the person that's been formerly incarcerated is like the single point of interest that affects the most industries and the most people, right? When you come out of prison and you don't have an ID card, and you need an ID card for every single thing, right? That's a huge barrier. Like trying to track down a Social Security card I mean, imagine being born in Utah and you just got out of prison in North Dakota and you got to try and get a birth certificate.
Right.
Like it's like the one. Here's something I learned the other day. 90% of the women in New England's prison they don't have an ID. 90% of them. And that was a wicked stat. That
you have
I
to
heard.
ask you how, and it's funny you're asking how in this day and age, but it just speaks to the level of involvement. Now we look at people's past and you say, how do people end up in the system? And it's any number of different ways. And like I say, if you haven't learned or you haven't been taught, how would you know? Okay. My dad made me memorize my Social Security number when I was in the 7th grade. And he's like, how do you not know that? And I was like, I don't know. I'm thinking about Legos or football. But he taught me that. When you were young, you had to learn your address. You had to learn how to get a driver's license. You had to learn how to fill out an application. All of these things, and I'm sure you guys see this, the basic skills that we think people should have, they don't have. And not only that, but the idea of how to get there. I always say that the key to success is knowing what buttons to push and what levers to pull. But if you've never seen the board, how do you do that? You wouldn't even know what a button or a lever is. Well, you guys are basically the board, right? And so you're saying, hey, come on in, we'll teach you, which I think is vital. The one thing that I think about when I think about F5 is success, okay? And the stat was 75% of your people that come through your organization succeed. And that means getting a job. And I hate the term productive member of society, but at the same time, that's how we measure people. What are you producing? What are you doing? And then the last part is, what are they giving back? So let's talk about some of the people in your first. I mean, there's you guys, but well as in your organization in terms of giving back.
Yeah. So, have you ever heard that analogy about the 4-minute mile? Right, where the guy.
So James, before I'm not going to let you start because James says we have another commercial. Thank you, James. It was a really great. I felt like this was going to be an award winner. You just cut to. All right. Hey, we got to go to break. When we come back, we'll talk more with a gentleman from the F5 Project. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. and civil liberties. All three of those are under attack. But that's a topic for another day. Welcome to Talk of the Town with John. Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I'm sitting here with Adam and Scott, and we're talking the F5 project, and we have a caller on the line, Charles. Charles, go ahead. What do you have for us today?
Good morning, gentlemen. Listen, I was listening with great interest on what it is you guys are doing. This is great work you're doing there. Listen, I thought that if the prisoners, and of course this isn't going to work with every level of offender, but let's say you have a certain group of low-level drug dealers or whatever, you take them out to certain like farms that would work with you, and you pay them the actual wage they would have to pay a farm hand or a ranch hand. Similar to what you do when you see the prisoners along the side of the road cleaning up trash. But that money is put into a savings account under, in this case, the state of North Dakota or whoever's managing it. And once they're released, they're able to spend that money on certain things, whether it's a car or an apartment or whatever. So they don't get thrown into the cycle of poverty that makes them, do horrible things or fall into making bad decisions. Similar to what you said about the women not having an ID, if you're in North Dakota and you're coming out of Idaho, then how do you get it done? $200 could change someone's life there. $20,000 would really make a big difference.
You're exactly correct.
So,
well, thank you for that call, gentlemen. Oh, did you have another question?
Yeah, thanks. No, that was it. I was just, I think that there's something like that could be implemented. You guys would really make a lot of headway. Y'all take care.
Thank you for calling in, Charles. So I have my thoughts on the process, but I want to hear, I see you smiling. What do you think about low-level offenders being able to go, basically we're talking work release, and go and work on farms, make an actual wage that's put into an account for them?
I mean, they already work. So I think that my personal opinion is that that they should get fair wages. If you're going to work and get paid to do a job for even a system or whatever, you should get fair wages just like everyone else. Yeah. And get taxed, and even if it's a little bit heavier tax because the system's paying for you to be there or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm against the idea of plantations, and not getting fair wages, and not and I know there's a lot of people out there that strongly disagree with me, but they obviously don't know how we came to have mass incarceration, right? And the abolishment of slavery, and how we had to keep the economy going, and so we disenfranchise African American men and women and put them in prison. And so when we start doing things that look similar to that, we're no better than they were at that time.
Scott.
Well, I think to follow that, I believe that the Department of Corrections in North Dakota already has a program like that, and they're implementing it. And I think some of the things that Adam and I are working on, we're working with a company out of another nonprofit, Telaverde, out of Arizona, and they do something. They've done it since 1998, and they have a call center, and these ladies, it's a women's prison,
and they're paying them,
and they're paying a fair wages. So some of these ladies, we actually had one of them come up and speak at our workforce summit last October, and she was awesome. And she talked about how she left with $27,000 in her bank account, and how she was able to get an apartment. And one of the things that Adam pointed out while we were visiting with Michelle, who is the CEO there, was that they're not having the problems or the issues as much as we are with housing, because they can pay their first month's rent. They can pay that deposit. They have that ability to do that. And that's one of the things that we're trying to bring back to North Dakota, to be a part of that, to make that happen. Because I think that's the piece that we're missing, is allowing people, because a lot of employers that we've connected with, people with backgrounds, that have felony backgrounds, whatever it is, what they've told me and what they've come back with is they're very loyal. They're hard workers, they're loyal, and they appreciate the opportunity, or a lot of people talk second chances. I talk fair chances, because second chance, it could be your 20th chance, but it may take that time for it to click for you to say, I need to do something different.
Right.
And if we're there to support that and lift them up, that's the difference. this country's all about dragging people down. You know, when we look at everybody going at each other all the time, it's always the negative. You don't hear the positive things of somebody, whether it's law enforcement or somebody that has a criminal background. When they do something positive, we kind of push. That's not that sexy.
Right.
It's not that flashy. So we want, oh, so-and-so did this terrible thing, then we're all about that. So I think sometimes when we, as a society, start looking at how do we lift people up instead of tear them down?
Yeah. And then we ask the question, like, what's better for the economy? People making more money?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're going to pay taxes.
And so why not give them
It depends
fair
on who
wages?
you ask on that one.
Yeah. No,
Right?
yeah.
I mean,
Well, we'll go
right
down
now
that
we
road.
have 70% of the country that doesn't make a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
yet these corporations are buying back their stock and giving dividends to their shareholders.
Yep.
You know, that's another.
Yeah. We're not going to
Let's
fix
go
that
That's
one
another
today.
Let's talk
conversation
about
for
it.
another day.
No. Let's
So
go.
from my perspective, I look at it as this: the prison system is a moneymaker. Okay, plain and simply, gentlemen that go to prison, there's work in prison, but they're getting paid pennies on the dollar to do that work. Where if they were outside the prison system, they would make enough money to do what they need to do. That's the dirty little secret
Well,
about
I've
prison.
been to a variety of prisons, and I'll tell you, North Dakota's prison system is far more about rehabilitation than it is any other. I've gone to prisons and I've sat with guys who just got out of the hole after 12 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't even have a shoe here anymore. We have no solitary confinement. Like, so when you see North Dakota Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, I really believe that R is double capitalized here.
And that is why you're on this show.
Yeah.
Right? It's first of all, it's to bring light, and I've said it all the time. Fargo and North Dakota in the region is one of the best places that you can live in the world. And some people, they'll text message me, you're drinking the Kool-Aid and this and that. But all you have to do is look at an F5 project. Look at the work that you guys are doing. You know other people. Now, you are part of a larger network of people trying to do things. Here's a question. You guys rich?
No.
So you're not doing it for the money.
No.
Because that's the other, a lot of people think that a lot of nonprofits, like pulling all this money and the people at the top are making a ton of money, and usually it's just the opposite. And I bet if we were to look at the amount of time that you spend versus the income you take home, I bet it's minuscule at best.
Yeah.
It's like
I went to
Making
work
less than minimum wage.
I went to work at 4:30 yesterday morning. When
I didn't
want to
guess. I didn't want to guess, but it's like being a business owner. If you own a business, it doesn't stop because it's 5 o'clock.
Right.
And in your situation, because you're dealing with human beings, there will be that 1 o'clock in the morning call, and you're thinking, somebody should be able to handle it. And then you realize, yeah, that's my job, right? So it doesn't stop after you go home. So I commend you guys for doing that. But so the idea of paying people a living wage or a wage period is frowned upon for a couple different reasons. It's just like I have some friends that have come out of prison with college degrees. And I actually have other friends that were frowning on that because it's like, you shouldn't be able to go to jail and get an education. I can't even afford to go to college, but this guy went to jail and now he has a great job and all that. And so it's that pushback. Yep. But at the same time, from what I know of prison, it ain't like it's a country club.
Yeah.
Number two, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that person to get there. We're not talking about, and I hate to use the word full functioning, intelligent human beings, but when I talk about the pieces that are missing, okay, that's how you end up there. It's not like it just happens to you. Mm-hmm. Right. There's a circumstance, it's life experience. So guess what? Their life experience was probably horrible for them to get to where they were, but now they've managed to turn it around. Yeah. So your best idea, instead of applauding them, is to poo-poo on them because they got an education.
Yeah.
Because they went to jail.
Yeah,
so
it's a selfish argument, because if I came to him and said, hey, if it was 100% success rate for every person who got a college degree while they were in prison and came out and never went back to prison and never committed a crime, would you still argue that?
Right.
Right? If that was the case, or is it because you're jealous? You know what I mean? Or is it because you don't want someone to be doing better than you? You know,
I think a lot of it is envy. A
Mhm.
lot of it is self-pity. Like we talk in society today when we look at people who are successful, you know. I know plenty of guys in this community that have made it big,
Mhm.
and some of these guys that come from well-to-do families, they'll say, "Oh, it's because of their family, or he comes from money, or he comes from this or that." When the fact is, I don't care who you are, if you are making it big in any industry, you have had to have put in the work. Okay,
Yeah.
you can't. You know this. You can't run a company just on your family name. It's who you are as a person, and so it's interesting the way we frame things so that we feel better.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, I
Or-
don't have a degree. I have a GED. I have an eighth grade education outside of the GED, right? And I've got 49 people that work at F5, right? Like has nothing to do with the titles and the details, and has everything to do with the effort that you put into whatever it is that you're trying to achieve.
And I think that's where, honestly, we fall down as a society when it comes to accountability and taking responsibility for oneself. So, Big Game James says we're up against the break. We'll come back with the final segment of Talk of the Town with the F5 gentlemen. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. So we're here with the gentleman from the F5 project, Scott College, and Adam, whatever your last name is, I forgot. I told
Martin.
you I wouldn't remember. Adam
Martin.
Martin. Okay.
That's
so
great. It was me before him.
you know, you guys remind me of two brothers. You know?
No, it's more like a grandpa and a grandson.
Oh, and there it is. Now the gloves have officially come off.
Knowledge.
So it takes all kinds to make this thing work. We've got a few minutes. Let's talk about how you guys are meeting the needs of youth in our community.
Yeah.
And along those lines, how are you partnering with law enforcement in terms of meeting the needs and mentoring youth in the community?
So we have, as of January, we started a youth mentorship program, and Brody Clark is our director. Brody comes to us with a lot of experience. He's connected to the schools. He coaches at Moorhead. And part of it is we got involved with a friend of, ends up being, he was a friend of mine previously. He used to be a cop. It's Chris Potter. He is a counselor at the alternative school in West Fargo.
Okay.
And we were able to get in there and start doing some groups. And the pre and post surveys are pretty awesome as far as the results. There's 26 students between girls and boys, 2 different groups.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is, in fact, I was in a tournament yesterday and was able to talk to some community people about how this program is taking off and what we need to do to fund it, to realize, we're doing this. There was no cost to the West Fargo School for this.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it pro bono. And our goal is to show the community, when we get involved at a young age and start working with individuals that are going through, they got family issues, they've got problems at home, maybe the parents have issues, that they have somebody to connect with, we can have a positive influence on that change and maybe redirect them from becoming a part of our system.
Right.
So our goal is with the youth mentorship is to start bringing this to other areas. And one of the areas that we're working on it's called 1959, and it's a program that we're going to get involved in through Medicaid to start helping families and these youth through that process. Because our funding, we don't have any funding for it right now. We're building it. We did get a grant, a partial grant for some of the youth programming, which we're going to initiate and keep moving forward. So Rachel, of course, does an awesome job in writing grants. We're working on a big one right now for youth. If we get that, we're going to be able to really make an impact. One of the problems with it is that unless you have an established youth program, a lot of the grants won't give you the money. It's like, how do we establish, it's that old age question of, well, how do you expect us to do this if you're not going to give us an opportunity?
Right.
So
Right.
again, our idea was, let's build this out. Let's show them. It's kind of like the Field of Dreams. Let's build it. They will come.
Right. Right. That, you speak to a very interesting point, is that it's like work experience. I need 5 years of experience to do this job, but you won't give me the job so I can get the experience.
You start a business and become their competitor.
Yeah.
Wow. That's some shark conversation right there. So with that, dude, that was like bam. Wow. You hit him over the head with that one. So what is the number one thing that you want people to take away from the F5 project?
Yeah. So when I was mentioning earlier about the 4-minute mile, for a long time, the people with felony backgrounds or addiction, alcoholism, they haven't really got the help that they needed. There's a lot of good and well-meaning people out there that have done a great job, but we haven't seen floods of people getting better. Mm-hmm. In 2016, we started helping people with felony backgrounds, and now they're buying houses today. They're starting businesses. And I think a lot of the people that we served didn't think that was possible. When they thought it was impossible to run a 4-minute mile, and then the guy did it.
Right.
And then thousands did it after he did.
Right.
He created that infield, right, for people to be able to break those records.
Right.
I think the same thing happened when F5 came to the scene. And now we're starting to see people starting businesses and buying cars, buying houses, getting their cars back, getting their kids back. And just all the things they thought were impossible, we're seeing every day happen in our lobby.
So then I just thought about something. When it comes to the city, the commission, the mayor, the police chief, how integral are they in helping F5 move forward?
They've been fantastic. Mayor Mahoney, Chief Zabowski, they've been really big advocates and gotten us into a lot of doors that I don't think we would have gotten into without their help.
Yep. So it's funny because, as you guys know, I like to rail against the government from time to time because I think that they could do better and they could do more. And here we have an example of where our government actually works in an entity that is helping move our city forward. So hats off to the mayor, hats off to the chief. We'll get back on you next week, but for now, but look, man, we got to give these guys credit.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
They could sit in their office and give you lip service, but here's an example where our community works, where you guys work, and these are the things that are going to help us more than being at odds with each other. So I want to thank you guys for being on. Most certainly, I'm going to have you guys on again because there's a number of things in your program that we didn't even have time to touch on in any meaningful way, as well as I would like to have some of people that are in your program that have some success to come on. Because nothing speaks more for a program when you actually have the people who have been helped. And hopefully people in the community see this and they see it as an opportunity to get involved. Now, most of us, if it doesn't concern us, we're not concerned.
Exactly.
And like I said, before I took this radio show, I knew of F5, but that was about as far as I wanted to go with it. But with this program, I recognize that you guys are doing great things, and this is what we need to focus on. Forget what we think about the city commission. I mean, I think they could do a better job. Forget what you think about how they're handling DEI. In this instance, I think they are helping. I think they are moving the needle forward in a way that makes it all possible for people that are marginalized to now have a life again. Yep. So James is over there. It looks like we have about 3 minutes left. So this golf outing, 60 seconds. Well, with that, I'm just going to ask you guys, tell us about the fundraiser, the golf fundraiser.
We have a golf outing at Moorhead Country Club. It's September 16th, a Monday. We've got like 5 teams left. So if you want to be a part of something amazing, this is our 3rd year, even the Golf Pro said, to get 36 teams in 3 years is pretty impressive. So we got five openings left. So get in there. You can still do sponsorship for our holes. We'd love it. It's to help the people that we're working with, and to go back to your question of what do you want to leave for about F5 is we want to meet people where they're at and be able to help them move on. And if they want to move on, and it comes down to that decision too.
Right.
Do you want to change?
And there you have it, the guys from F5 along with Rachel over there doing her thing. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We will certainly have you guys back on the show. This has been Jon Adams for Talk of the Town. Have a great day, and as always, stay black.